Hey guys, welcome back. Happy Friday. Last video of the week. And a couple months back, I said in one of my videos, please, if you have questions or video topics, list them down below and I'll go over them as I have free time. Sheba Fox, if you're out there, thank you, because they gave me a list of like 10 different questions and I'm still working down that list as I have free time. So this is another one of those videos. So to everybody else out there, if you have topics or things you want to see or have me talk about or cover or specific snakes or projects you want to see that I have, comment down below and let me know. I try to take notes down or at least pictures of those comments and save them for when I don't have anything else important to cover. So today, I can't, these guys, every time I put them on, they try to choke me out. Today I want to cover what projects, what advice would I give myself if I could go back in time and, give me some advice to do something different. And I think my biggest piece of advice to myself would be to take my time with developing what projects I want. Man, he's really on me, huh? And buy more animals like this guy. So this is Ultraman, and I bought him, I think, in the fall of 2021 from Aussie. He was listed as an OD leopard firefly, Ultramel het pied. All those genes check out. However, I believe he's also yellow belly and enchi. I've proven out yellow belly. Aussie said he thought he might be enchi as well. Both of those genes were in his parents' pairing. But the reason I say buy more animals like this is at that time, he was like one of one. And I've still never seen another snake like him listed on Morph Market. And he ended up producing so many awesome clutches, so many awesome babies that I have never seen before, that I'm still holding back. He's making my Ultra Pride project look fantastic going forward. I've actually still yet to produce a double visual Ultra Pied, but everything he produced for me last year is all pied het Ultramel. They're all beautiful females with a bunch of genes in them. And when I bought him, I think he was $5,500 as a hatchling. And I also purchased another really nice male from Aussie at that time. And I spent, I think, $7,500. And he was a super OD, yellow belly, enchi leopard, pied. And I think he ended up actually being fire as well. That male, while he did make me some fantastic babies, and I definitely got my return on investment on him, the value of the snakes he was producing, or that I could produce with him, dropped significantly from the time that I purchased him till I actually just sold him. So I just sold him recently for like $2,000. I wouldn't expect his price to stay anywhere near $7,500, but I wouldn't have expected it to drop by almost 75% from the time I got him to the time I sold him 3-ish years later as a proven breeder that gave me a bunch of clutches. And the babies I was producing from him weren't, I was producing some really nice super OD combo babies. He actually sired a double het DG pied clutch for me, and I kept a lot of the babies back. But it's a lot easier to make those snakes because he's just a visual pied and there's no other recessives in there. And he had a boatload of genes of codoms, but it's not very hard to duplicate that. And I produced a handful of snakes last year. Let me see here. I think this is one of the girls. I kept like 2 girls back from him, and she's not exactly the same thing, but she looks pretty darn close. So I kept 2 of those females from him last year, and I sold pretty much everything else because I obviously didn't need a male. And I ended up getting a super OD YB Fire Clown Pied, which is going to be a lot more important for me down the long run. So I let him go. But a male like this, a male that is in the double recessive project, that had, at the time, 4 codoms, ended up being probably 6 genes in him, plus the Ultramel, plus the het pied, that nobody else has made since this is 2021. This has been almost 3 full years, and I think he was born in the summer, so he's probably exactly 3 years old. I still have not seen another snake like him. And the babies he's producing just from other ultra males, like this male that I have for sale, still one of a kind snake. I could not find anything even similar to this male to ID when I was trying to figure out what his genetics were. Plus the 2 other ones that from the same clutch that I kept, that I'm holding back. This is the other male. Again, I'm not 100% positive on this ID. Now the female is black pastel bamboo, so there's some other stuff going on in there as well. But they're all visual ultra males. I didn't test the 2 I'm keeping for het pied, but they have really nice ringers on them. And this is the female I'm keeping. She almost has no pattern and has this really bright stripe going down her back. He's still producing snakes like that. None of those snakes I've seen on Morph Market either. I couldn't tell you what the IDs on those would be firmly, because there's a potential for there being 8 genes in any one of those snakes. And they're invaluable for ultra projects, for ultra pied projects. And when you're buying a snake like this that nobody else has, it gives you the ability to produce more snakes that nobody else has. The problems with what I see a lot of people doing, and what I did for a while, is I chased the fad. With that Super OD combo male, I chased the fad. That's what looked cool. Ozzy was going hard on those snakes. He was producing quite a bit of them. And because of how awesome they looked and how easy they were to make and duplicate, I think a lot of people followed suit. And now they're not very hard to find because they're a lot easier to make as well. With following the trend, you're going to see the prices drop drastically from the time you buy the snakes for the project and then are actually able to reproduce them. That male, I didn't have any females ready for him when he was probably ready to breed, but I started still breeding him at like 2 years old. And, by the time I was producing babies out of him, I mean, the snakes that were similar to him were between $1,000 and $2,000, which is an enormous drop off from what I paid for him initially. Luckily, he had like 4, 5, 6 clutches, so it didn't matter. And typically, that's the thing. If you go buy a monsoon and it's $10,000, you're never going to be able to probably sell another monsoon for $10,000. But if it's a male and it has 4 clutches, you'll make your money back, probably tenfold by the time you actually sell those babies. But those prices drop as well. So, for instance, I think of something like lace or chocolate. I consider those fad genes. And while those genes might actually work very well, Justin has probably done years of breeding those projects out, and they look fantastic. And so they might become genes like the new Orange Dream. Orange Dream's a staple. Basically, any project, you take OD, you slap it in a pied, you slap it in a clown, you slap it in a DG, it looks fantastic. It works with everything. It works in the lightning pieds that I just produced. So maybe chocolate or maybe lace becomes a gene like that, where it's just one of those genes that you should really have in your collection. That's fantastic. But the prices on those things drop drastically because it's a fad, because it's a codom. It's easy to reproduce, easy to make. And when that happens, and everybody hears the story of how the first bananas were $20,000 and up, and within a year or two, the prices went nuclear in the wrong direction because of how easy it is to reproduce a banana. 1 out of every 2 babies is a banana. So you can't just be chasing a high dollar gene, a single gene, especially if it's not a recessive. And so, the advice I would give myself is don't chase projects. Ultra Pied was still a popular project when I bought this male. But if you could even get an Ultra Pied with no genes in it, you were paying $4 or $5 grand at that time, maybe even $6. This male was a little less than that, but he added in a bunch of codoms into the mix. And if you buy an Ultra Pied tomorrow and you try to work it into a project and get a bunch of genes, if you try to get OD Leopard, Firefly, Yellow Belly, and Enchi into it, you're gonna have to breed it to unless you have another ultra pied with those genes, you're probably going to be breeding it to a pied or an ultra male that has those genes in it. So by the time you breed those two snakes together and get a clutch, let's just say it takes you up to a year. Let's just say you buy an adult and you breed it to an ultra pied. Let's say you breed it to a pied that's OD, Enshi, yellow belly, firefly, leopard. You're going to get a bunch of babies that are pied, het ultra male, and they may or may not have any of those genes, right? By the time you're able to breed those babies up, you can choose to breed some of those females to the dad, which would probably be the quickest route. But that's still going to take you 2 to 3 years to actually get any codoms into the ultra pied project. Whereas with purchasing a male like this that already has 4+ codoms in him and he's already double recessive, it's a shortcut. And not only that, it's a male shortcut. So typically they only take a year or so to breed rather than 2+ years for most females. So he's infusing those genes into a double recessive project in a pretty fast turnaround time. And unfortunately, I didn't have a bunch of ultra pied females to breed him to last year. And the one pied het ultra male I did have, they absolutely hate each other's guts and they will not lock up for the life of me. I got 2 locks over the whole course of last year. So I actually, this male, well, he's not locking up to her either. I actually started putting this male in here while I have him for sale to this big female to see if he's double het ultra pied. He's actually Ultraman's son. He's up for sale, by the way, if you'd like him. Just to see if they'll lock up. But, you can't just be buying low-level stuff. You can't be chasing fads. If you're going to spend big money on a project, it needs to be something worth your money. And for most people, I would typically say if you're going to spend big money on a snake, it's probably better off that it's a male, because that male is able to breed an infinite amount of times for you. I say infinite, maybe indefinite's probably a better word. I couldn't tell you how many clutches any specific snake's going to have. But, for instance, let's see, Blade here. My guy who's basically been the dad to everything important that I've ever produced here in the last year. The OD Blade pied double het MJ clown male here. He had probably 4 or 5 clutches last year. He's already had 3 clutches this year. I'm still breeding him to 2 females this year, and he's still eating, and he's still doing fantastic, and he's still getting me healthy clutches. And guess what? How many people do you see producing? Let's see over here. And this guy actually already ate his first meal. Oh, wrong one. This guy already actually ate his first meal today, too. I believe this is an OD Blade Lightning Pied, Posset Clown. How many of these are hanging around the morph market? Not too many. Not too many at all. And when you're choosing to get males that can produce 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 clutches a year, and that male has a ton of genetics in him, you don't need to have double recessive females to breed them to. You can have females. That OD Blade pied male, I bred him to a bunch of clown females last year. Just single recessive clowns. Some of them had pastel, some were pastel lesser. But he was producing females like this for me. This is one of his babies from last year. And she's het pied because the dad was pied, het clown, het MJ, and she's pos het MJ, which hopefully sooner or later I can test for. So you don't need to have the craziest selection of females in the world, but when you buy a male that's power packed, that male has the ability to kickstart any project you need to kickstart. So, you're going to have limited space in your racks. You should not be buying male after male after male. If you want to work the clown pied project, you don't need 2 or 3 males for that. Buy one male that fits all of your needs. If at some point you need to get a backup like I had to do with my DG clown project this year, then that's a completely different story. But if you're working clown pied, get the one male that you can afford that does everything you need it to do. Whether it's a visual clown pied or clown head pied or pied head clown, make sure it has 2, 3, 4 genes in it. If you're working the ultra pied project, try to get a male that has multiple genes in it. Even if it's a double het, even if it's a visual slash het. As long as it has both recessive genes, try to get something with 2, 3, 4, 5 genes in it. Because just having 1 or 2 codoms in a double visual recessive snake skyrockets the price. And in this case here with this male, and I'm praying that he ends up being a het clown, because this is the snake I'm going to keep from the males. If this guy proves out to be OD blade lightning pied het clown, not only is he bringing 2 genes into any pairing that I would have in this project, he's a triple recessive snake with 2 codoms. I couldn't even put a price tag on what he would cost. That is invaluable. Nobody else is doing that. And I didn't have some crazy pairing to produce him either. I mean, I have lightning pies because I've been collecting them for 3 years, but it was an OD blade pied double het MJ clown bred to a lightning pied female. That's it. That's not a crazy pairing. But nobody has that snake. And so you got to think outside the box. You have to be using powerful males. And I think that's the one thing that, if I had to start all over again, that I would have focused on more, is not chasing the popular projects, because if they're very popular and there's a lot of volume of those snakes, or the snakes are easy to recreate, those prices are going to drop fast, really fast. So if you spent all your money to invest in this one snake and the price of that snake plummeted by the time you're actually able to get a clutch out of it and actually sell any of the babies, I mean, it's going to be tough on you. It's really going to toy with your emotions. These lightning pieds, when the adults came up to me, I think it was also, that was 2021, I think, as well, like right on the time I bought this guy. There's a pair of adults. It was like $8,000 or something. And I was like, nobody else has these snakes. Excuse me. Nobody else has these snakes. Everybody's working VPI in the US, basically. There might be 1 or 2 people in the US using MJ Xanthic. Everybody else is in Canada. This might be a good time to get into this project. Well, man, did I strike gold with that. They had a clutch of eggs by the summer of the next year. They only had 6 eggs, but they, I think, made me like 25 grand or more just on the 6 eggs. Unfortunately, I sold them all because I needed the money back, because I spent so much money on snakes the last year. But I think females were like 5,000 and males were like 3,500 at that time. Guess what? Those prices haven't dropped much since then. Why? Because of supply and demand. Because there's not a whole lot of supply of those snakes, but the demand is still high. The females are still selling for around 4,000 or so. The males, the last couple I saw, were between $2,000 and $2,500. That's a $1,000 drop off. 20%, 25%. I get maybe 30 on the males. That's not a big drop off in 3 years' time. When did I sell those? I sold those in 2022, so that was 2 years. That's not a big drop off in 2 years. And the market's down right now as well. So I would assume, this clutch that I just hatched, if I decided to hold on to some of those for a year and prices were to go back up, they might even be at the same price as they were in 2022. So you got to be selective. You got to make sure that the males you're buying can fit into multiple projects. I bred him to a bunch of pieds last year because I didn't have a bunch of ultramale females, and he made me a bunch of pied head ultramales that have a bunch of genes. I kept a bunch of females back. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I have 2 ultramales up there. So I have 8 females from him last year that I kept back that are ultramale head pied or pied head ultramale that have a bunch of genes in them. As soon as I'm able to, I think I'm going to have to buy another male at some point because I don't know if I want to breed him back to them. But as soon as I'm able to breed those females, I have 8 females going that are double recessive snakes that, I get like a new male in here with maybe a couple different genes in it. And I'm making snakes. I have 8 clutches making snakes that nobody has. How many ultra pieds have you seen that have like more than a gene or two in them that have been for sale, let alone produced? So it's just, I love I'm seeing myself in a reflection here. I love it. It looks like I have a halo on. So it's being smart how you're doing things. And if you don't have the knowledge or ability to figure this stuff out on your own, join a Patreon, get a mentor, somebody that can kind of run you through, hey, you don't want to do that. It's not a good idea. This is why. Join my Patreon. I'm very willing to help people. Our Instagram group is fantastic. We help each other out all the time. I'm available for, mentoring. I don't know everything. I'm not Justin. I'm not Billy. I'm not Ozzy, but I have a pretty good hold on what the hell I'm doing here. And I have a lot of knowledge. And I don't want people to go through the same growing pains that I did, because there's probably been about at least 2 times, maybe 3 times, where I've had to kind of roll over my collection because I was doing things wrong. And it sets you back. I mean, I'm 6 years into this, and I've made pretty awesome progress, but I would be so much further ahead if I had known what I was doing those first, at least the second 2 years, but even the first 2 years. If I knew what I was doing, if I had direction, if I knew how to build out projects, it would have made my life a lot easier, and I wouldn't be producing my first DG clowns this year. I would have been doing it already. I wouldn't have been producing my first DG pieds this year. I would have been doing it already. I wouldn't only still have 2 visual lightning pied females I was breeding. I probably would have kept all those females from 2 years ago, and I'd have 5 this year. So, that's where we're at. Very good question, Sheba Fox. Hopefully that helps you guys. If you're seriously deciding to spend like large chunks of money in this, you really need to discuss your plans with somebody. You really need to have a mentor, because you're going to make giant mistakes and you're going to waste a lot of money. So again, if you've ever purchased a snake from me this month, Patreon's $1 a month for life. You're eligible for that. If you haven't bought a snake from me yet, you can still sign up for my Patreon. But if you buy anything from me this month, you're also eligible for that. So take a look at that. Ultraman, I think, is going to go back in with the ladies. I'm really trying to get some actual Ultra Pies out of him this season. I have an Ultra Pied head hypo female that I have from Aussie as well. Hopefully they actually decide to create some eggs this year, because it's going to be really exciting clutch. So I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. We will see you on Monday. Take care.